Welcome to the Happiness Matters podcast, where we'll explore happiness at work and show you how to coach yourself to be happier there and more successful too, no matter what.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the next step in our mini-series on coaching your negative emotions, your unhappiness. I'm Julia Seal, and this is now the 7th step of this mini insight series within Series 1, defining, assessing and visioning your happy and successful at work, no matter what. Today is an exciting episode where we're looking at this idea of next level evolution in our happiness. And I want to start it with something from poet David Whyte from his book Consolations, the soulless nourishment and underlying meaning of everyday words. In this book, David takes everyday ordinary words and invites us into a poetical and philosophical consideration of how the meanings we make of these words shapes our lives. And today, I'm looking at the word courage, our anti-fragile, lion-hearted topic of last week, as an opening to our coaching today. Courage is the measure of our heartfelt participation with life, with another, with a community, a work, a future. To be courageous is not necessarily to go anywhere or do anything, except to make conscious those things we already feel deeply, and then to live through the unending vulnerabilities of those consequences. Everything that we are doing here on the Happiness Matters podcast together is an act of courage, where we are making conscious those things we already feel deeply about, and then learning to live through the unending vulnerability of those consequences. We're questioning the pursuit of happiness. We're questioning what we call happiness. We're looking deeply into the journey between where we are now and where we'd like to go next. And along the way, we're exploring what we can do about our negative emotions. How do we live with them? How do we embrace them? How do we use them to fuel us? This is immense courage by you and by me. So every one of us. We started this mini coaching journey on negative emotions back in episode 1.17. So if you're just joining us today, go back and listen when you can. Last week, I left you with some questions to consider around the happiness wisdom concept of emotional courage. To consider how your anti-fragility, your robustness, your resilience, and your courage relate to your unhappiness, your dissatisfaction with life, your discomfort, and your emotional suffering. This week, we're going to look more into the real opportunity behind our negative emotions. As I said last week, if you are willing to feel everything, you can do anything. And everything includes the 50% of life is 50-50. Everything includes your unhappiness now, your favorite methods of distraction and buffering, your self-judgment, your sadness, anger, fear, shame, humiliation, loneliness, boredom. If you are willing to feel everything, you can do anything. This is about the next step in our evolution as humans, and the call to create our own purposeful and intentional version of happiness, a carefully created, crafted version of your happiness. And this is an insight into coaching with me in the future, creating feelings on purpose and using your negative emotions in order to do your work in the world, the work you are being called to do. It's fortuitous that today, when this podcast episode goes live, is also Human Rights Day. What a perfect day to be having this conversation together. Human Rights Day is observed every year on the 10th of December since 1948, when the United Nations General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This document proclaims the inalienable rights that everyone is entitled to, inherently as a human being, regardless of race, color, religion, sex, language, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. I'd never actually read this document until now, so I've included a link to an illustrated version in this episode's show notes, just in case you're also inspired to read it today. Interestingly, today is also Nobel Prize Day. These awards were established in the will of Swedish chemist, engineer, and industrialist Alfred Nobel back in 1895 as a recognition of academic, cultural, or scientific advances by people who have conferred the greatest benefit on mankind. The Peace Prize is particularly special, and we've spoken about some of the recipients on the podcast before. In 1989, it was awarded to the 14th Dalai Lama, and at the same time a tribute made to Mahatma Gandhi, who never received it before his 1948 assassination. Then, closer to home in South Africa, we have 11 Nobel Prize winners, 4 of them Peace Prize winners. Albert Luthuli in 1960, in 1993, the then president of apartheid South Africa, F.W. de Klerk, together with Nelson Mandela, and then the year after, Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Now, the recipients' lectures are normally held in the days prior to the awards ceremony, and I've included a link in the show notes so you can go and have a look. There's some great examples of courage for you to consider, some great examples of next step evolution. As we get stuck in, I want to remind you to download the free tools I've created to go with these sessions on coaching your negative emotions. You'll find these, as well as all the other free coaching tools in Series 1, the audios of these podcast episodes, and all show notes on our website, Happiness-Matters.coach. There's an overview of this How to Feel Better mini coaching journey and some inspiration quotes for you. And then there's my free coaching tool to use as much as you possibly can over this period. 3 long, strong breaths. We've now reached a point in this coaching journey within Series 1 to ask, are you ready to evolve? We've dug into your current definitions of happiness, where you are now and where you want to be, as well as the obstacles you believe are standing in your way. We've looked at some tools using our biological makeup to help us: emojis, smiling, self-smizing, and laughter. We've looked at ways to ease your feelings of unhappiness and discontent, all your negative emotions right now, so that we can see more clearly into our happiness. I've introduced some cognitive concepts, such as our happiness wisdom concepts, like happiness adaptation. And I've been inviting you to try some immediate in-the-moment tools to help you with your unbearable unhappiness. And now, my invitation to you, are you ready to evolve with me? Are you ready to coach yourself, exploring new landscapes and new possibilities with me to the next level of your individual evolution? Let's consider what I mean by evolve to your next level. And I want to start with a look into what evolution actually means. Our starting point is that evolution is the process of change in all forms of life, or the gradual development of something. It's based on a Latin word from the 1600s meaning unrolling. We mostly know it as the scientific theory used by biologists to explain how living things have developed from earlier forms during the history of Earth, how living things have come to be the way they are. Charles Darwin's 1859 book, on the origin of species, presents this theory of evolution by natural selection, the process by which organisms change over time as a result of changes in heritable physical or behavioral traits. I've just read such an interesting and beautifully written account of his visit to the Galapagos Islands and his work with tortoises and finches, and why his uncle called him a man of enlarged curiosity. I've included a link in the show notes for you. It's really worth a read. There are a lot of reads this week, aren't there? Anyway, here are some interesting aspects to evolution of all forms of life that can help us understand evolution a little more. Evolution is not a random process, even if it looks it. The genetic variation on which natural selection acts may occur randomly, but natural selection itself is not random at all. The survival and reproductive success of an individual is directly related to the ways its inherited traits function in the context of its local environment. So this is simply survival of the fittest. There are 4 principles at work in evolution: variation, inheritance, selection, and time. And the only way to truly stop any biological organism from evolving is extinction. So evolution can be slowed by reducing and keeping population size to a small number of individuals, but constant evolution is a given. And populations evolve, not individuals. So individual organisms do not evolve. They retain the same genes throughout their life. And when a population is evolving, the ratio of different genetic types is changing. We're all aware of the discussions around our own evolution as humans, as Homo sapiens sapiens, where we've come from and how we've developed or evolved. Something I find so interesting is that our closest living relatives are chimpanzees and gorillas. If you remember from a few episodes back when we were looking into laughter, I introduced you to Chimfunzi, the chimp orphanage, set up near to where I was born in Zambia. Such a special place. Current estimates of the similarity between our DNA sequences and those of chimps is between 95 and 99%. Using a technique called a molecular clock, the approximate date for the split between us and chimps is set at 4 to 8 million years ago, when there was an actual change in our chromosomes. We were left with 23, and the chimps and other apes with 24. So fascinating, the story of our evolution. As a word, evolution has evolved from meaning unrolling, generally used in military contexts, into this gradual development of something that I've illustrated with Darwin's theory of evolution. But since the pure definition of evolution doesn't exactly apply to us here, especially as we discovered earlier the fact that populations evolve, not individuals, and I'm talking about you as an individual. Of course, nowadays we use the word more loosely to mean development, advancement, growth, progress, expansion, transformation, unfolding, and change. But I want to explain myself in more detail as I invite you into an evolving process for you personally, where I do talk about evolving ourselves, our next level evolution. Thomas Moore, psychotherapist and former monk, best known for his beautiful books Care of the Soul and Dark Nights of the Soul, gives us a hint. It's far better to be under construction than to be shabby and in need of repair. The person who hasn't sorted out his life experiences acts them out in daily life, repeating negative patterns. The alchemical or therapeutic work not only liberates you from your past, it makes you a thoughtful and less impulsive person, less prone to acting on raw emotion. You also become a better leader, parent, teacher, and friend. You become a person of substance, liberated from the raw, interfering patterns and emotions that are only useful when refined. And the Dalai Lama, spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhism, also points to the way. Destructive thoughts and emotions undermine the very causes of peace and happiness. If you think clearly about it, it makes no sense to think you're seeking happiness if you do nothing to restrain angry, spiteful, and malicious thoughts and emotions. So what do I mean about evolve to the next level exactly? So to evolve yourself is to develop yourself gradually. It's the change, the progress, the leveling up to your next best level. The next best level of your mindset, your habits and daily routines, your associations and relationships, and your actions. It means to live into our full potential, to live an extraordinary life, to live our lives unencumbered by our habitual patterns, to tap into the complete potential of our human brain, to make good use of our precious human life. It's about crafting a purposeful life, your own version of happiness and success. It's about your freedom from emotional suffering and what you'll do when you're free. It's about your personal legend to fulfill. As a recent social media meme says, don't just exist, live. Get out, explore, thrive, challenge yourself, evolve, change forever. A meme, by the way, is considered to be one of the tools of conscious evolution, how we influence our environment and spread new ideas. Now, it's not just me that is inviting you into this conscious evolution conversation. I'm calling on 3 other sources for us to explore together. A breakthrough thinking management consultancy, the leading researcher on positive psychology, and a best-selling author of unusual tales. The work of all 3 is what I've used to help me in evolving my own life and in coaching my clients. They are, as Thomas Moore suggests, both therapeutic and alchemical. Insights and practical skills I trust you'll find interesting too. This is obviously a very quick look, so I've included links in the show notes for you as well. The first ties into my work in corporates as a consultant in employee engagement, as well as my own leadership journey within the corporate world. It's the work being done by US management consultants, Gap International. I've had the privilege of learning from them since 2008 and still am while working with my very special clients in Namibia. Their work focuses on developing leaders and building work cultures that promote breakthrough thinking, exceptional accountability, and top performance. Their Leveraging Genius Institute is doing groundbreaking work in exploring the mindsets that drive business results. The background thinking, ideas, and attitudes when leaders are operating at their most effective, what they call genius mindsets. They've tracked the mindsets and business results of over 600 business leaders over 11 years and discovered that there are very definite mindsets that drive business results, and it's not quite what you'd expect. The most influential components of executive mindsets are grouped into 8 themes, including growth and evolution, experience of life, and get it done. But the 2 themes that showed up at the top in all executives, almost 100% of them, was purpose and other people. I find this so interesting. Think about the prevailing rhetoric about the business world. It's faceless, it's heartless, it's all about money and results, it's about self-centered individualism. certainly nothing about personal contribution in the world or developing and helping other people. This research is now looking into how we could adopt the mindsets of those who are successful, learning from others' genius in delivering extraordinary results in life, and blending it into our own genius, saying, when people unlock genius in themselves and others, they discover a ferocious intensity to realize the exceptional. So the possibility and processes where we can purposefully and intentionally evolve ourselves into our expanded genius. I'll link to their research article in the show notes. The next source is more therapeutic and is the work of Hungarian-American psychologist Mihail Csikszentmihalyi. He was born in Italy when it was known as the Kingdom of Italy. Did you even know that Italy was once a kingdom? I first came across his work when I was studying the science of happiness through the University of Berkeley, California. Here we looked into his work around the psychological concept of flow. And it's something we'll talk about again towards the end of Series 1. What's of interest to today's conversation about evolving ourselves, our conscious evolution, is his book, The Evolving Self, A Psychology for the Third Millennium. Here, Csikszentmihalyi explores the idea that our genetically programmed behaviors that were once essential to our survival are now actually threatening this survival. This includes our obsession with food and sex, addiction to pleasure, our excessive rationality, and our tendency to focus on the negative. He believes that becoming an active, conscious part of the evolutionary process can give our lives meaning and joy, and, at the same time, profoundly impact the human species in the future. He also talks through the seemingly primal dissatisfaction we have with life, our unhappy as inherent, and how this can spur us to keep recreating ourselves. It's a read that requires deep engagement and thought, but it's well worth it. The last source for us to explore together is more of an alchemical invitation by a best-selling author of unusual tales. And I have to admit, one of my most favorite books of all time, one that had an impact on me after my divorce, Paulo Coelho and his book, The Alchemist. I pondered on this book all through my backpacking trip through Greece. It influenced my own post-traumatic growth, my own evolution. Many of you might already have been journeying through your life with this book. It combines magic, mysticism, wisdom, and wonder into an unusual yet inspiring tale of self-discovery. It was written 25 years ago and is still on the New York Times bestseller list. Something like 150 million copies, 115 awards, and translated into 80 languages. So I'm certainly not alone in loving it. On the face of it, it tells the mystical story of Santiago, a shepherd boy who yearns to travel in search of a worldly treasure. And his quest leads him to riches far different and far more satisfying than he ever imagined. His journey shows us the essential wisdom of listening to our hearts, of recognizing opportunity and learning to read the omens strewn along life's path, and, most importantly, to follow our dreams. I love this. The boy didn't know what a person's destiny was. It's what you have always wanted to accomplish. Everyone, when they are young, knows what their destiny is. At that point in their lives, everything is clear and everything is possible. They are not afraid to dream and to yearn for everything they would like to see happen to them in their lives. But as time passes, a mysterious force begins to convince them that it will be impossible for them to realize their destiny. It's a force that appears to be negative, but actually shows you how to realize your destiny. It prepares your spirit and your will, because there is one great truth on this planet. Whoever you are, or whatever it is that you do, when you really want something, it's because that desire originated in the soul of the universe. It's your mission on Earth. So we've looked at our next level evolution from various angles, exploring what it means from a few different aspects. I'm hoping this inspires you to think about what your next level of evolution might be. Let's now look at what I mean in the context of the coaching we're doing here, especially as it applies to coaching our negative emotions. And the hint, obviously, is in all the episodes we've done on this topic since episode 1.17, the invitation to step into your happiness wisdom, to practice anti-fragility, to unpack your favorite way of buffering and distraction, to consider the yin-yang of your emotional balance. It's about emotional courage at the start of your happiness journey with me. Happiness Matters is all about coaching ourselves, evolving our definitions of happiness and success, and evolving our very being to be the best versions of ourselves. Emotional evolution is the essential first part of this evolution, our own individual emotional evolution. And actually, we cannot move any further forward in our self-growth, our happiness journey, without this evolution in how we deal with our emotions, how we process them, how we use them to fuel our lives, how to feel better, and how to feel more skillfully. We need to evolve the way we feel and develop the skills to process our pain and process our unhappiness. We cannot access our own wisdom, our happiness wisdom, when negative emotions are dominating our everyday. Instead, we spend our time trying not to feel what's already there, whether it's frustration, boredom, fear, sadness, unhappiness. We really don't want to feel the negative emotions in our brains or in our bodies. We're motivated by our survival instinct. And as I said in earlier episodes, we have evolved this way. Our brains and our bodies are geared towards avoiding the negative and moving towards pleasure all the time. And we've learned the skills to do this too from the way we were raised, our cultural heritage, and our current social context. So now the challenge is to evolve beyond the way our brain is structured, beyond the behavioral patterns we learned from people around us, and beyond what we absorb every day from life around us. Now it's up to us to evolve ourselves so we can move beyond the stuck point of no progress, our unhappiness. This really is why we've started this emotional evolution coaching journey here, and now so early in our coaching journey together. It's why I added this mini coaching journey on your negative emotions right at the start within the very first series of Series 1, Defining, Assessing, and Visioning You're Happy and Successful No Matter What. If we start building our skills in how to feel better, if we start evolving ourselves emotionally, we'll not get caught in the trap of the happiness paradox and the happiness treadmill. We'll also actually be recalibrating our happiness ladder and our happiness set point. Without being able to feel better, to truly evolve yourself emotionally, we'll never get to happiness and success no matter what. Truthfully, we won't even be able to define, assess, and vision what happiness no matter what actually is for us. As philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre said, it isn't freedom from, it's freedom to. If you want to work with me directly, if you want to coach your negative emotions and tackle your unhappiness right now, I'm available every Wednesday. You can book your online coaching session today on Happiness-Matters.coach. Click on the yellow button, Coach with Julia, to go straight through to my calendar. Next week is our last episode of 2019. I can hardly believe that the time since our launch on International Workers' Day on the 1st of May that we've come to you every Tuesday, and we're now already 26 episodes in. I do hope you've subscribed by now and left us a review. We're going to spend 2019's last episode together discovering how to process your negative emotions. It's a simple way to process for all and any of your negative emotions, step by step. It's perfect timing, isn't it? As so many of us head into the year-end silly season, things often get more fraught and our emotions and our relationships get a whole lot more tricky to navigate. This is my end of year and my Christmas gift to all of you. There really is no better time to do this work together. Bye for now. I wish you a special Human Rights Day, with 21 days left this year to consider doing the impossible, evolving yourself to your next level happiness. What courage.
Thanks for joining us on this Happiness Matters podcast. Do join us again here next week on Tuesday. You can subscribe to this series at Apple Podcasts on iTunes, or you can sign up for it on our website, Happiness-Matters.coach. That's Happiness-Matters.coach. COACH. Also, you can join our conversation on Facebook by following us there. Our Facebook page is also Happiness-Matters.coach.